Do you think being in Nashville is still important?
It's not as important as it used to be, but I do think it's still important to come here. There's still a lot of lingering history here that you'd benefit from being here. It's a little bit harder to find, but once you get into those rooms and start meeting people and going to songwriter nights and just kind of getting in those conversations, it's hard to make a case that it's not a benefit to be here. But it's certainly a much more accessible now from outside of town because of things like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of there's definitely access in.
What's going on? Welcome to The New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business, the book. Third edition is out now everywhere, all formats, hardcover, ebook, audiobook. However you like books, you can find the book. Today, my guest is Matthew Ramsey. He's the lead singer and songwriter of the band Old Dominion.
Yeah, I miss you, man, when I hear the band in the bar on 5th and Main. Yeah, we tore it up, but I don't go there much anymore. It just ain't the same. I'll never understand, but I guess
they need no introduction, but I'll give them one anyways. They've had 9 number 1 singles at country radio. They have over 5 billion on-demand streams. They've earned a dozen RIAA Platinum and Gold single certifications. They won Group of the Year at this year's Academy of Country Music Awards for the 8th consecutive year. They broke the record for all-time and most consecutive wins in the category, and they're currently touring arenas around the world, selling out headlining arenas around the world. Today we talk about their new album, Barbara. Great album. I've had the pleasure of listening to it now for a little while. I definitely recommend checking it out. And we talk about putting this album together, the songs on the album, the co-writing process. We dig into some of the songs on the record. But also we talk about how Old Dominion got started way back when Matthew moved to Nashville to become a songwriter, a professional songwriter. And he tells his story of just kind of how he teamed up with his fellow band members who are still in the band all these years later. And Matthew has also written songs for many other artists, including the band Perry, Craig Morgan, Luke Bryan, Sam Hunt, Kenny Chesney, Dierks Bentley, on and on and on. He's a very prolific songwriter. So actually, we spent a bit of time talking about the songwriting process in Nashville specifically. That's where he's based, and he's done most of his songwriting there. And we also dig into kind of the business side of being a working country band. And we talk about, who picks the singles, the relationship between the record label there with Sony Records, and have been since the beginning. So we talk about that journey and that process. Definitely recommend you check out Old Dominion's new album, Barbara, and go see them on tour. They put on a great show. You can find all of us that make the show happen at Ari's Take on the socials. Find me at Ari Herstand on Instagram. Visit aristake.com, get on the email list. That's actually the best way to stay in touch with us. So if you wouldn't mind, just pause this episode right now, go to aristake.com, get on our email list. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, stay in touch. All right, let's kick into the show. Matthew Ramsey, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so I know you're on a pretty massive tour right now. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you gotta catch flights, and I think you're playing Idaho or something tomorrow. This tour, I watched that little recap video that you guys just put out, which is a lot of fun. My first question to you, I have to ask, who's Barbara?
That's the $1 million question, right?
People are dressing up as this incredible Barbara. I know it's the album. I know it's the title of your upcoming album. This incredible woman is the cover. It's an iconic album cover, I just have to say.
Thank you.
And the promo that you've been rolling out of Barbara, kind of welcoming people into the album, which I think is just brilliant and hilarious.
Sure.
Who's Barbara?
Barbara is, yeah, I know, right? Barbara is just the visual representation of the album. We just, there's no person that we're naming it after. It's a little bit of a window into our twisted sense of humor, but
that's great.
So, cool. We just sort of, sorry, I'm having a little computer thing, but we just always are joking around with album concept titles, and we thought it would be funny to name it after a person's name. And Barbara kind of stuck. And then once we had that name, we immediately sort of visualized this person and what she would be like, and found this amazing model to sit in for us. And, she just sort of embodies really the spirit of the whole album, which is, there's like, when you look at that album cover, she's definitely somebody you want to talk to. She's somebody, she's got stories to tell.
She's got stories.
She has lived a life, and that's kind of the way we feel about the album. So.
That's great. And I love it. I saw that people are actually dressing up as this Barbara and showing up to your shows.
That's it's pretty wild, man. That started just happening more and more. And now, the more that you showcase it, obviously more people are coming dressed. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about the album and kind of the process of putting this together. I got a chance to listen to it. A great record, by the way. I mean, it's really, really well written and touching on some deep topics and you really, most of your albums like kind of span the spectrum of just life, but this one especially. I mean, I want to start off by a song that I think is resonating with a lot of people right now, and that's "Miss You, Man."
Yeah.
And already I've seen people that's become their new favorite song, and for a band that's been around for so long, and you have so many songs out, and this is a song that's resonating. I saw a little girl holding up a sign for the song at a show recently, and just people can connect with that song. And I'd love for you to just talk about the process of writing this song, and I know it's about a collaborator that you've worked with in the past who's no longer with us, but I'd just love to just kind of hear about the process of putting that song together and why you felt this was the time to put this one out.
Yeah, it's funny. We write songs for various reasons. Sometimes we are just trying to sit in a room and create a hit. And, we have a hit idea and we just think it would be cool, but that's not necessarily why we were drawn to creating music in the beginning. It was always something that was, personal going on in your life or something on your heart. And in that room that day, our friend Andrew was on our minds, and he always is. Andrew Dorff, a great songwriter. We play his songs every night. And we miss him dearly. And we were just talking about him, and we wrote that song for us that day. And I don't think we ever even thought about in the beginning, putting it on an album. It was just working through our memories of him, and it was four of us. It was myself and Trevor, who's in the band, and Matt Jenkins, who we write with all the time, and Ross Kopperman, who we also write with all the time. All of us were close with Andrew. So we just were just telling stories with each other and laughing about, our buddy. And then when it came time to pick songs, that it was such a strong song and it meant so much to us. And actually, Brad was also very close to Andrew. And I was, we were halfway through the writing session, and I was starting to feel really guilty that Brad wasn't there because I knew he would have a lot to say about it, Sure. So he, we played it for him, and of course he loved it. And then we brought it in the studio, and like you said, I don't think we ever expected the reaction that it's getting, but it's a really beautiful reaction. And like Trevor said the other night, when that little girl was in the crowd. It was a sign with pictures of her dad, and she was crying, and we were all crying, and all the crew on the side of the stage was crying, and the whole crowd was crying, and we're going, Trevor said, man, honestly, that's what it's all about. That's what we do this for. We are hoping to make an impact in people's lives. And it turns out, the further we get into our career, we realize a lot of the best way to speak to someone's heart is to speak to your own. And it seems to resonate when we do that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit, the songwriting process and the best way to speak to someone through their heart and all of that. And you mentioned, sometimes we go in looking to write a hit. You guys are unique in the sense that you're established songwriters, but you're also in a working band, a successful touring band, playing to a lot of people every night. There are a lot of your collaborators are just songwriters. I mean, I don't say just songwriters, sure, but that is their main profession, that they're songwriters in Nashville, grinding it out day to day, going to the sessions, doing the thing. And for them, I think the calculation's a little bit different maybe when they go into a room looking to write a song. This is the New Music Business Podcast. We all know about the business here, right, all the listeners here. So, I just as a refresher, songwriters these days mostly are getting paid when it's a hit, right, and they're getting those performance royalties when it's on the radio. I mean, that's really the bread and butter of the songwriting business. And so, of course, the songwriters are always thinking like, oh my gosh, are they going to choose this as the single? Is this going to be the hit song? Whereas you guys, you're the band. You're just, as part making meaningful songs you think the fans will resonate, maybe songs that will be fun to play on stage. I'm curious, when you get into rooms to write a song, whether it's with various collaborators or just you guys in the band, kind of the intention and how you come up with the intention of that day's songwriting session, and if it's going to be a song for you, for the album, or even if that is even part of the thought process of going into all of that.
Yeah, great question. When we moved to town, we all kind of moved separately within a span of a couple of years.
To Nashville.
Yeah. And, myself and Trevor and Brad all moved here with the goal of being songwriters. We weren't trying to make it as a band or anything like that. Our goal was to be professional songwriters. So we spent, a decade doing that, grinding it out and learning and trying to write the best song we possibly can, whatever is in the room that day. So we've got so ingrained in that process and fell in love with that process that's still very present in the room when we sit down to write. Mostly all we're doing is trying to get the best song. And there's no thought of, well, we need a up-tempo thing in the set, or we need this. Usually when we try, not to say we haven't tried to do that. Sure. We certainly have, but we usually miss when we do that. I think whenever we try to focus too hard in one direction, we usually miss the mark a little bit, and we're never too happy with that. But when we sit down together with, whether it be the band or in a co-writing session, and most of our co-writers at this point know our background and know that's how we work, they don't even think about it either. They're not looking at us, for the most part. They're not looking at us like, oh my gosh, I'm in the room with an artist to write. Hopefully, I'm sure that's in the back of their mind somewhere, but most of them know that when they sit down with us, we're after the best song possible, no matter what it sounds like, no matter if it's country or pop or whatever. We're just trying to find that idea that gets the room excited, and then chase down that idea. So that's really all it is. And then it becomes, once we, amass this collection of songs of, a few hundred songs, we start sifting through them to figure out, okay, now what do we need in our set, or what do we need on an album? What haven't we said, or, what direction haven't we explored?
Yeah, no, that was actually going to be my next question. After how many songs, I guess, do you then decide, all right, let's focus on the album, and then how do you choose which songs go on the album?
Yeah, it's interesting, because there's three principal songwriters in the band, and not to say the other guys aren't writers, because they've certainly been a part of a lot of our songs too, in the writing too.
Sure.
We just have a lot, and we love writing. So with that mindset of trying to get the best song possible, we just keep writing and keep writing and keep writing and never stop. So, so we have just piles and piles of songs to sift through, and new ones coming in all the time. So when it comes down to, record an album, we see the dates on the calendar coming up, like, all right, in a month, we're going to be in the studio. Usually what happens is there's probably 3 or 4 songs that we all agree on already. So we've been in enough writing rooms over the past year or so together and separately and playing each other music that we all know when we have 3 or 4 that are great and we all agree on. So we stick those in the pile. And then it's just a crazy storm of texting each other songs and, like, check out this one. What about this one? And listening on the bus together. And sometimes it's even in the studio, where it might be like, oh, I just remembered this one. And we're sitting in the control room. Why don't we try to go cut this one? So it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I can imagine it's super daunting because if you really you've written hundreds of songs or however many in that time period, to whittle it down or even remembers what was that song we wrote 7 months ago with that guy that
Sure, right, and it gets even a little bit more confusing too because say I wrote a song with a couple of co-writers that are not in the band, and I bring that in, and then I might be super passionate about this song and I play it for them and they just kind of go, maybe not, so it's up to me whether or not I want to fight for it or go, okay, they're not feeling it. I can see their point.
Yeah. I mean, that's also interesting because I'm curious your process of writing in a session as the artist, as okay, I'm going in as Matthew Ramsey, Old Dominion, or as the songwriter, Matthew Ramsey, writing for another artist. Does that change your process at all?
It doesn't at all, because I think, what I've learned about myself, at least I can speak for myself, I'm going to be me. No matter what, I can't help it. And that's frustrating sometimes, but also an asset at sometimes too. So I've never also been, even though I moved here to be a professional songwriter, I've never been good at 5 days a week writing, just slugging it out, so I can do 2 days a week, and hope for quality over quantity. But for the most part, man, it's just, I think, whatever my strengths are in the room, and whoever I'm paired with that day hopefully has a different set, and they work well together at the end of the day. So there's no artist in the room usually. It's just a songwriter in the room as much as I can possibly do it.
Yeah, is that unique to Nashville? I know that people that do pop sessions in LA, for instance, there's maybe a little bit different of a structure in terms of you kind of have the driver, somebody driving the session at the working on the DAW, making the beats or something, and then you might have the artist in the room and you might have a top liner or some and that's kind of this crew for a lot of pop sessions, and everyone is very clear, okay, the artist is the artist, we're going to talk, write about what they're going through in their life at the moment or something like that. And for Nashville sessions, is that pretty common where everyone is just a songwriter in the room and we're just trying to write the best song and doesn't matter necessarily who the artist is?
I think it's a mix of both. At least that's hopefully the case with us.
Okay.
But there are other artists that get that way, and there's certainly, I've had that experience as a songwriter in the room with an artist who has something very specific that they want to say, hopefully, or if they don't have something specific they want to say, that can be frustrating because you're sitting there going, dude, you're the artist,
right.
And I've certainly been in rooms with, writers that aren't necessarily in my circle, where I can sniff it out and go, oh, you're treating me like an artist right now. I can see that a mile away going, hey, I know that line I just threw out sucked.
Yeah.
But you're not calling me out on it, because you want the artist to cut it, so that frustrates me when I can feel that. But I think it's a mix of both. I think Nashville certainly fosters true songwriters more than other towns, I think. So I think at least most artists know that and respect that and come into the room with some sort of idea in the back of their head that they are a songwriter that day. And you know, what they say may not be great, but it can at least get the ball rolling with the great writers that are in the room. Yeah.
Do you have a routine or a way that you get ready for sessions? How do you show up as kind of your most open, inspired self to songwriting sessions?
You know, anymore, I don't. I just try to be relaxed. I try not to play a guitar much because I've found that can be limiting for me. And there are plenty of other, I mean, I can play the guitar just fine.
Sure. Yeah.
But I feel like in a writing session, I'd be drawn to the same thing that I always do. And I think, you know, my strength is more of a lyrical and melodic strength than it is playing in chord structures. And so I'd rather be open completely with my brain. I also work better in the morning than I do in the evening or the afternoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm usually, by the end of the day, I'm, you know, pretty tired. So I hear lots of stories about, you know, people like Post Malone starting to write at, you know, 11 p.m. And I'm just like, I'm out. I've
been fast asleep for a half hour. Yeah. No, totally. Because you guys are now so much more established, I guess, than when you got started, do you have your go-to collaborators? I know you've written, like you mentioned, Ross Copperman a lot, Shane McNally, who's also the producer on the record, and then obviously the guys in the band. Are you still placed in rooms from publishers and A&R and stuff like that? Or do you have more kind of say and control?
I have always been the type of writer that has kind of done my own schedule. You know, sometimes much to the chagrin of publishers, you know, because I'm a little bit more protective of who I write with, and sometimes to my detriment. You know, that it would behoove me to write with a lot more writers sometimes, I think. But I typically have my go-to people that I really love. I know we're going to get something great that day, and if we don't, I'm going to have a good time hanging out with them. So, you know, either way, it's going to be good. It's not going to be a waste of my time. It's not going to be frustrating. So I do get paired here and there. Occasionally, I'll get sent. My publisher he sends me, you know, ideas all the time, and I ignore most of them. And then sometimes I'll go, I'll give that one a shot.
Yeah. Nice. So I want to go back to kind of the beginnings. You know, you move out to Nashville to be a songwriter, professional songwriter. But when did you start kind of gigging and like seriously gigging? You know, I watched the part of that like mini doc of you in like Tuscaloosa, and you're kind of going down memory lane. No pun intended there. Yeah. But you know, we're going. You know, and you're talking about how like you're doing the bar gigs. You're like, you know, for a couple $100, like doing that to, I'm assuming, pay the bills. Tell me about that journey of just like grinding it out in Nashville, doing the songwriter thing, but then starting to play out, and then how did the band come to be?
Yeah, it was sort of just an organic process, because I moved to town and I met Trevor about a year after I moved here, and we had heard each other's names mentioned a lot in different publisher meetings, and people were going, I think you guys would work well together. And we ended up being paired together in a songwriter round. We met on stage one night, and
cool.
You know, I was like, I've heard about you. He's sing, you know, and he played a song, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. I played a song. He was like, oh man, they were right. We should work together. So he and I started writing a lot of songs together. And we had both grown up in bands, you know, just in our high school days and stuff like that, and wanted to play music out. And we're writing all these songs together. And then if you look back even further in history, so Whit, our drummer, and I went to middle school together, and and he was in a band in college with Jeff, our bass player, and those guys had moved to town, and they were in my like favorite band back in Virginia, and I was like, oh, I got a couple buddies in town. Why don't we play some of these songs that we've been writing? And they're my buddies, so I won't have to pay them. Like I'm broke. They're just looking to play, so let's just jam. So we start, we just start setting up in whatever little bar we could and play for free beer and, try to showcase some of the songs that we've been writing. And we wound up, one of the funniest things we did was we wound up in a battle of the bands at the Wild Horse Saloon here. And it was like a 2-month long contest where it was whittled down band after band, like a bracket, and the prize was you get to be the house band for the Wild Horse Saloon and make some money. Plus you would get like 10 grand or something to go into the studio. And we made it all the way down to the final round of the competition. And one of the judges was Michael Knox, who's, big producer, Jason Aldean's producer.
Yeah.
So we get down to the final competition and we lose. And we're backstage and Michael Knox comes up to us and he goes, hey, everybody here knows you guys are the best band. You don't want this gig. He just said, you're an artist and this is a cover band gig. And so the people at the Wild Horse came up and said, yeah, if you want to be the house band for the Wild Horse, you're welcome to. And you can play anytime you want. But you're an artist. Right. You guys need to focus on what you're doing creatively. So we did take that gig and we played a lot of those nights just so we could make $100 here and there.
Right.
But it was a loss, but it was a huge win for us and gave us a lot of confidence to be like, okay, maybe we do have something here that we should kind of dig into.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that. The concept of you're an artist. In Nashville, anyone who's been there on the gone down to Broadway and just popped in to any of those bars there, they're seeing cover bands every night. Sure. And I've got a lot of friends who do the cover band slog on Broadway, and you're master at the instrument, you learn the 100 songs, you can get any gig. Sometimes 2 gigs a night. You're on call. You're doing that. And you're making a living. But what does it mean to be an artist in Nashville? And is there a lot of that crossover? Is there people that are doing the cover band thing while trying to make it as an artist, while trying to, do the sessions during the daytime, all of that? And how do you transition if these cover bands out there? How do you actually then start to focus on being that artist?
I think the dangerous thing about being in a cover band like that and wanting to be an artist is you get caught in this mindset of pleasing your audience in the bar, and you start to you're playing all these songs that were hit songs on the radio, and you see visually how that works and gets that crowd fired up. And so you in your head starts to think, okay, as an artist, I got to do that. And you wind up just doing a watered down version of that, and nobody wants that. So if you can resist that, and that's when we started having the most success as songwriters and as a band. It's when we stopped trying to chase what we thought the radio wanted to hear or what was on the radio, because that's already been done. Probably, these songs were probably written 4 years ago. And they're on to the next. And that artist that's got that song on the radio is looking at what's next. So you got to be thinking, okay, what's next? Not what am I hearing currently? So I think that's a little bit of the trap of being in a cover band, is you just kind of get stuck in that mode going, okay, I just played a, Kenny Chesney song. I'm going to write a Kenny Chesney song.
Everyone loved it.
And and I'm going to try to write that again. And
Yep.
That's not going to work. You're going to miss it every time.
Right.
If you talk to somebody like Kenny, he's looking for the next thing and to reinvent himself all the time.
Yeah. So how did you guys kind of break out of that? I know you were doing the cover band thing, or was there a shift? Was there a moment where you're like, you know what, we gotta pause the cover band thing. Maybe we tighten our expenses a little bit so we can focus on our artist project? Or what was that moment where you guys, went full steam ahead?
Well, it happened while we were doing cover band stuff. We were working very hard at being songwriters. So cover band at night to make a few $100, but all day long we're writing songs. So we started to have success as songwriters. So we're all getting cuts and having hits. And that's when, in those rooms, that's when we were going, okay, screw everything else. Let's focus on what excites us. So then, then we had this luxury of being able to work, covers in to our set that were our songs. So, we're playing hit songs for people, but we wrote them and they're ours. So we got, and then when we get to start playing gigs that are, Old Dominion gigs, a lot of new bands or artists out there, they do have to play covers to get people's attention because nobody knows who they are. So, they're playing whatever cover they can just to grab people's attention. And then they're putting in, their songs as well. Well, we got to put in our songs, but then also play the covers that we wrote. So it sort of began to mold together of okay, now we're starting to get something here where, yes, we're playing an Old Dominion song and then we're going to play a Dierks Bentley song. But, oh, by the way, it's our song that we wrote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. How do you focus and see what's next? You've mentioned a couple of times kind of, looking to what's next and not trying to repeat what's been done before. Is that part of the discussion, or when you're in a session or before or anything like that, thinking okay, this is what's happening right now. Let's look at, cross genre or the charts or what artists are doing, or how do you take inspiration and then make sure that you're moving forward?
Yeah. We obviously all listen to all kinds of different music. And we just kind of try to be inspired by whatever we're listening to. We try not to pay any attention to anyone in this genre in particular. We love this genre and we love a lot of those artists, but as far as what we want to do, we know that we have a lane and they have a lane. So we stay away from them and trying to do anything like that. And it's a bit of, it's something that we have to constantly remind ourselves of, because we can fall in that trap and, someone might blow up and they're doing something over here and they shoot to the top really fast. And we're sitting over here going, oh, maybe we should do that, and then we get down that road and go, no. We got to do our thing. And that's the benefit of having a true band too, because it would be much harder as a solo artist, I think, because at least the five of us can circle up and go, no, man, let's just do our thing. Let's, whatever that is. And we don't know what it is. We just know in the studio, when something is starting to make us excited, then we should keep chasing it. And we certainly have gotten down a road before or even finished a song in the studio and gone, man, that sounds like it could be a hit for anyone. And that's when that song falls off of the album. So, if we feel like, man, only we could do this, then it's got a good chance.
Cool. Who chooses the singles? Is that a discussion? Is that the band? Is that the label? Is there some kind of give and take? How does that process work?
There's a bit of a give and take. Ultimately, we've had a really great relationship with our record label and complete and total
freedom
to do whatever we want to do from the beginning. So they are always coming to us going, whatever you guys say, we'll get behind it. So
amazing.
Yeah. So, but that's not to say they don't have input. You know, they certainly have. Usually, we turn in the record. We give them a week or so to listen to it and digest it, and then we have a meeting. And we've all had our favorites, and they have their favorites. We see if anything lines up. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we take into account their, whatever their metrics are for what they think the single should be. And sometimes we disagree and go, no, that's not the one we want. And sometimes we go, okay, you believe in it, so we trust you. But it's a group decision for sure.
Yeah. I just watched the Billy Joel documentary, and there's this great scene in there where they're playing Columbia Records. It's the first listen of The Stranger.
Yeah, I saw that.
You seen this?
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
And like at the time, Billy Joel's wife was his manager, and the first person speaks up after the listening session and says, "Sounds nice, but we don't hear a hit here." And she's like, "You're wrong." And then they said, and she's like, "All right, I tell you what, you can pick the first single if I get to pick the second single."
Yeah.
And so the label, picked, of course, "Moving Out," which was kind of the obvious choice, great song, whatever. And then she picked
Just the Way You Are. Yeah.
Right. And it was like massive, his biggest hit of all time. And I thought that was just so telling. It's just like, man, you have an album like The Stranger and you have all these execs in a room. And granted, this is back when, but still, like, it was just wild that a bunch of suits, of these people just couldn't hear gold when it's played for them. And it's like, I'm just like curious, like things are still happening that way, but I'm glad to hear that you have this.
It's a tale as old as time, man. But I remember, during COVID, we made an album called Time, Tequila, and Therapy. And the whole way that album was made, everybody's in a bubble, and we decided, okay, we have this opportunity. We have all this time now. Let's go out of town. Let's pick a studio, not in Nashville. Let's live there for a month. And everything we write, let's record it. So we wrote and recorded that whole album in that time period. And we were super excited about it. We would write a song in the morning and then cut it in the evening. And we created this whole album. And we were so excited about it. We turned it in and we got the that exact phone call saying, "We think you guys need to go back in." And, and I said to them, "No, this is the project that you've got. This is a body of work that we created and we believe in it." And, I Was on a Boat That Day is one of our biggest songs that was on that album. And we closed every show with it, and people go nuts. And, so it's
got to be very gratifying. Yeah. I mean, it's like at the end of the day, no one really knows.
No.
It's like, I guess until it's out in the world and people start resonating with it. And it's I guess why, so many, especially labels, are, letting the market decide.
Sure.
And that's why they're like testing songs out on TikTok or whatever these days to just try to, they can't figure it out. So like, well, maybe these 15 seconds, the market will decide what 15 seconds are the best. And that's a really hard way to do it too.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting the full story.
And prime example was one-man band. One of the things that we hate hearing all the time is we need another one-man band. Well, no shit. Like, if I could just shit out one-man band all the time, I would be. But we didn't know that song was going to do what it did. And the label didn't know that song was going to do what it did. We had a handful of singles that we were choosing from. And it's not like that one was the one that everyone was going, this is the song. We didn't know until it was the song. So you can't predict that kind of thing.
And you guys now have such a deep catalog, and it's cool to see that so many of your fans have different favorite songs, and people aren't just showing up for one man band,
right.
And there's a lot of artists out there that unfortunately have fallen into the trap. It's like the live by the hit, die by the hit,
right.
And it's just like they have one hit, maybe two. They're packing rooms. Fast forward a few years, they haven't had a hit in a while, and those rooms aren't really as full anymore, and that can be challenging. Whereas, have you noticed, because you guys you have such a deep catalog, you've had plenty of hits, but you've also grinded out on the road. You've toured so much. I mean, what is kind of the discussion, or just within the band, I guess, of just how often are we going to tour and go out and meet our fans and like just be this live band versus let's focus on getting more hits, writing more hits, putting out more hits, and writing that, try to make that radio thing happen.
Yeah. The touring aspect of it is it's up there as the most important thing. Our fans are one of the most important things to us. So, I think we're in a fortunate position where we're pretty confident that we can continue to have hits,
Yeah.
It's changed. The game's changed obviously a little bit now with the speed that people consume music. So there's good and bad to that. So like we make a whole album, we may only get one single off of it, and we hope that's a hit, but we also know that our fans are going to dive into the whole album. So live, we're going to be able to go out there and play this whole record, and they're going to sing every word to them like they're hits. So we get to kind of double dip a little bit in that respect.
That's fun. That's great. I'm curious about your song, Man or the Song.
Yeah.
And you have this lyric in there: if I put my guitar down, would I disappear? Move back to my hometown, would you still be here? Will you love the man or the song? And then at the end, am I the man or the song? And I'm curious, just kind of what you're intending with that, because I think with country songwriting in general, like we've talked about, and a lot of it is just like, are people there for the song or for the artist?
Right.
And that your fans are there for the artist. That they're, like you said, they're going to sing every song. There's every lyric of every song on the new album and everything. But am I the man of the song? I think there's maybe a lot of songwriters, a lot of artists that resonate with that sentiment of, what is it to the audience? What is it to you, to the partner, to the whomever? Are you connecting because of this great song that you resonate with, or because of who's singing it?
Sure. Yeah. That's, that song is probably my favorite song on the album and one of the most personal. So thank you for bringing it up. I think the line that resonates the most with me in that song is, I hope you know it's not who I am, it's just what I do. And we couldn't have written this song 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It had to be now, where we've lived all of this life in this business and going through all of those questions. And a lot of the time, it's a question in the mirror of, you can really lose yourself in this life. You can really get kind of turned around and go like, wait a minute, I'm just a dude. I'm just a dude that happens to be able to do this for a living. And you certainly, there are relationships that you have, friends, and you can question, man, why are you here? Like, are you here? Like, you're just hanging around because I'm this artist, or like, do you actually know who I am, and do you care for who I am? And it can be a bit of a lonely profession. It's not to complain about it, but that is a side of it. And again, another reason that we're so thankful that we're in a band, because we've known each other forever, and it's hard to be lonely when you've got your buddies with you. But as an artist out there on stage alone, making all these decisions that could make or break your career, is scary. And you start to drink your own Kool-Aid a little bit. So it's a little bit of that, just kind of self-analysis. Like, what am I here? Like, are my feet still on the ground here? And do you see me that way? Like when I come home, am I still daddy? Am I Matthew from Old Dominion? Right. So it's a tough question that everybody, I think, in this business has to kind of reconcile with.
Yeah. What helps keep you grounded?
I think, well, like I touched on the five of us, we definitely keep each other grounded.
Band.
Yeah. It's definitely a ruthless environment. We're a self-policing organization, as one of our friends puts it. So
I love that.
So he always laughs. His name's Keith Gale. I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's in the business too. But he used to work with our record label, but he calls us a self-policing organization because we do. If someone starts to float up into the clouds, the rest of us are going to pull you back down and be like, nah, buddy. Nah, buddy, you're down here. And then, we all are fathers, all but Brad. And, it's hard to think too much of yourself when you're, responsible for someone else's life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a rare thing that a band has kept the same members and stayed together for so long. What is it about you guys that has kept it so prolific and you've stayed together now for so long? And what is it about the chemistry or about the relationship that keeps you there as this self-policing organization that doesn't piss anyone off enough to
sure.
leave?
I think, we definitely we made a very concerted effort at the very beginning. Once we started to see like, holy shit, this thing might take off a little bit, we had a conversation and said to each other, look, we were friends before we were ever a band. So the goal is to still be friends after this is all over. So we're friends before we're a band, and we try to keep that in mind at all times. So we're all also after the same goal, and that's the best song or the best show. And for some reason, man, it just works. We laugh a lot. It's not to say that we don't bicker with each other. We're a family. So, we talk shit about each other, and then we hug each other. I think I wish I knew the like golden ticket to tell people this is how you make it work. There is none. We just happen to be fortunate that we get along.
Love that. There's a lot of younger artists listening right now who would love to have the career that you're having and that you've had. What advice can you offer some of these young artists, maybe some songwriters, country artists, who are figuring out what to do, how to get started? Like, do I move to Nashville? Do it like what at this stage, or should I just stay at home and do the TikTok thing like Bailey Zimmerman? Like, what do I do? And what would your advice be?
It's cliche. There's no one path for anyone. And the most cliche but true thing is you just have to do what's on your heart. You really, truly have to follow that. You have to follow what is driving you, and you have to love it. And that's the only thing is if you're grinding away at something and you hate it, you're not doing it right. So, if you're grinding away at something and you maybe aren't getting anywhere, but you're loving it, just keep doing it. Because if you just keep doing it, someone eventually is going to go, man, this guy is not going away. Like they're still doing this, You just have to keep going as long as you love it. And I always tell people, I said this the other day. When I moved to Nashville, you realize the talent pool that you're working in, and it's even bigger now with things like you mentioned, like TikTok. You just get on TikTok and see how crazily good everyone is, So you can either be intimidated by that and use it as inspiration to get better, or you can be intimidated by it and quit. And I always say neither one of those is the wrong decision. Like, if it's scary to you and you don't think you can do it, don't. But if there's something inside of you going, man, I know somewhere in me there, I have that ability and I'm going to dig until I find it. But all it means, you just got to keep going.
That's great. No, it's really great advice. Do you think is Nashville what it was maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago when you kind of were grinding it there? Do you think that being in Nashville is still important?
It's not what it was.
Okay.
I think it's not as important as it used to be. But I do think it's still important to come here. There's still a lot of lingering history here that you'd benefit from being here and being around. There's enough. It hasn't gone away completely. It's a little bit harder to find, but once you get into those rooms and, start meeting people and going to songwriter nights and just kind of getting in those conversations, it's hard to make a case that it's not a benefit to be here. So, but it's certainly a much more accessible now from outside of town. So, because of things like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of there's definitely access in, but it's pretty tough to do it without at least coming here pretty frequently.
Yeah, I mean, especially songwriting. Have you ever tried the virtual songwriting thing? Did you do any of the virtual songwriting sessions over COVID or anything like that?
I couldn't do it, man. I was like, man, screw this. I'm out. Like, I was like, I'll just go write by myself for a couple years.
Right.
And, definitely, I know a lot of people that did it successfully. I could not do it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there is that magic of being in the room with people and just like feeling that energy and having that, flow and all of that. Yeah. So right on. Well, again, Matthew, thank you for chatting with me, and congratulations again on the new album. It's really great, and it's true to you guys, and it's I think it's going to have a much bigger life as it comes out, and more people are going to find their new favorite songs as more of these are released. And so, really great work with that.
Thank you.
I have one final question that I ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
Ooh. That's a question for your own heart. I think for me, if you're happy with what you're creating, then you're already successful. I think the rest is gravy. As if you're an artist or a songwriter and you're writing something that you can't stop thinking about, then you spoke to the most important audience at that point. So if you can continue to tap into that, then sky's the limit. So I think that would be it. Is if you can just go, I'm proud of myself for what I just did, and I want to do it again. Then that is making it for sure. As far as like tangible success goes, I always, for me, I can only say what I kind of had in mind. And the only thing I wanted was to be able to go visit my family whenever I wanted to, without having to budget it out or plan it out, or I could just buy a plane ticket and go see my brother or whoever I wanted to. at that time. And man, if I could just do that, you know, then I have made it.
Great.
You know?
Right on. I love that. Matthew Ramsey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, man.
This episode was edited by Peter Schrupp with music by Brassroots District and produced by all the great people at Ari's Take.